Good Monday morning, Bills fans, and welcome to our Monday morning breakdown. We do this every Monday at 10 a.m. on social media. Happy to have you along on Facebook, on Twitter, and on YouTube. What are you snapping your fingers about? What's the matter?
It's a snappy Monday,
It
man.
is a snappy Monday. It's a good Monday. The Bills coming off the victory, the 1-point victory over the Detroit Lions. A hard-fought, hard-earned victory. We're here to talk about it. We're going to listen to you. We're going to get your comments on Facebook and Twitter and read some of them in our crowd noise section of the show. We got the 2-minute offense coming up later where we look at what's going on around the NFL. We'll take a look ahead to next week and what comes up in the week ahead for the Buffalo Bills. And we'll talk about 4 key elements of yesterday's win. But, Chris, to start with, I got to say this, and I don't think it's been said enough since the game ended yesterday.
Well, then say it, Murph.
I'm going to say it. That was a gutsy win for the Bills today. When you look at who they did not have in the lineup going into the game, who they lost during the course of the game, where they were with running back depth, they lost key other performers on offense. That was a gutty win. To come from behind and win that game yesterday, I was impressed.
Battle of attrition. I don't think there's any question about that. To some degree, the Jets game was the week before as well, with the injuries on both sides, a very physical game. Coming off of that game shorthanded on the way in. Granted, Detroit was supremely shorthanded as well in this game, but hey, you know, you got to play with the guys you've got. And the guys they had was getting fewer and fewer. I was almost half joking with Coach McDermott in the post-game press conference yesterday saying, Coach, I know it's next man up, but you had to look over your shoulder. There weren't too many guys left to pick off the bench to put in the game,
They had to go to the
especially
next
at running
man.
back and linebacker.
Next man after the next man.
Yeah, and I'll say this, you know, in response to your need to say something about the grittiness of this performance, if there's one thing that I think Sean McDermott doesn't get, it's enough credit for getting out of this team what he does when you examine the roster top to bottom and the alarming lack of gifted talent. What he's getting out of these guys, I mean, this is a season that is not headed for the postseason, and the players have known that for a couple of weeks now. They're playing hard for this guy.
Yeah.
They play hard for him and try to win football games even when you can make the argument that there's not a ton on the line. And I got to say one more thing.
Yeah.
I like the all red. Can we
I
wear
do
those
too.
more?
I know.
Can we wear those more often?
It's
those
great.
are, I mean, they're electric, man.
From a play-by-play standpoint, it's fantastic. You just get a better
And
look.
they're very seasonal.
Yes,
I mean, for
I
the
agree,
people
for
that
this
care
time of
about
year.
that.
The game went back and forth. Lions scored first, missed the extra point. Josh Allen scored on a running touchdown. Then the Bills took the lead in the fourth quarter with this play, the 42-yard pass to Robert Foster. A great pass and a great catch and run by Robert Foster. And the Bills hung on. They made some defensive plays to settle the issue.
I got to ask, was that a snow globe shake?
not sure
Is that
what
what
he was
that
doing
was?
there.
I thought that was the snow globe shake.
I think underrated also what the Bills did at the end with their 4-minute offense to get the first down they needed to keep the Lions off the field. That was
Josh
big.
on the 4th and 1 there.
Yeah, huge. Let's get into 4-down territory as we look at some of the big elements of yesterday's game. And let's start with the guy we just saw, Robert Foster. I believe we've talked about him each of the last couple of weeks on this show, Chris, and I know we've done it on the Daily Show, One Bills Live. This is a guy who was cut in the middle of this season, came back to the practice squad, worked his way back to the roster. He came in as a speed guy with a very short resume from Alabama. He's much more than a speed guy now. I think you can see him develop into a pretty good quality NFL receiver in terms of route running, which is improved for him. Running after the catch is big for him. He's still got the speed, the great physical gifts, but he's become, I think, an important part of this Buffalo offense, and he had a big game yesterday. 4 catches, 108 yards, a career high, had a touchdown. First Bills wide receiver to have 3 games of 100 yards or more since Sammy Watkins did it 3 years ago.
Yeah, he had, coming into this game, 8 of the 16 plays for 20 yards or more in the last 3 weeks. He had half of them. He had 3 of the longest plays from scrimmage in yesterday's game, and he also had the 43-yard pass interference call. He drew the PI that led to the first touchdown that Josh Allen ran in when Josh threw him the ball down to the left corner of the end zone down at the goal line. That drew a 43-yard penalty. So you throw that in, he's got the 4 biggest plays of the game, and this is what's encouraging for me more than anything, Murph. In the years that you and I have both covered this team, we've seen a countless number of physically gifted players who were perceived long shots that just never maximized those physical gifts into something tangible to carve out a career in this league
like
for a long
Parrish
period.
types? Is that what
Well,
you're thinking?
it could be anybody. It could be a second-round pick like Roscoe. It could be an undrafted guy like a Rashad Baker who had a lot of physical gifts and played safety. Jabari Greer is really the only undrafted guy, along with Jason Peters, who comes to mind that really maximized their physical gifts and carved out a legitimate NFL career. I think Robert Foster is on that same track. this year with the Bills.
What's exciting to me is that Foster seems to be getting better on a weekly basis, and that's pretty good. And he's also earned the trust and built some chemistry with the quarterback. And now we get to second down, and that's Josh Allen. The chemistry he's developed with Robert Foster is big, but Josh Allen, I think, and we say it every week, taking steps forward. He got better yesterday. I think one of the things he did better was make smarter decisions with the football. Some of his best plays yesterday, I believe, Chris, were throwing the ball away. You know, when he didn't have a play downfield, unlike the Jets game when he sort of forced it into bad situations, he threw it away a couple times when he didn't have anybody downfield. That's smart. You just live to fight another down, you know, the next down. And he did that along with making some great plays. He threw some rockets, too, in yesterday's game.
I mean, the notes that I put on my game sheet yesterday were best decision-making game for Josh Allen, and I felt it was. He ran when it was warranted. You know, the touchdown run that we're watching now, most notable among them. And he threw it away to live for the next play. I thought that he brought under control his desire to play hero ball, which got him caught in some bad situations a couple of times, most notably last week's game with the 3 turnovers, whether it was deciding to run and try to elude people and have the ball hanging out there like a loaf of bread and having a fumble, or the 2 picks on ill-advised throws. So he learned from that. And that's what you want to see. You don't want to see a young quarterback making the same mistakes twice or over and over again. And we saw progress in the decision-making department, and that's important for your quarterback who's handling the ball on every single play.
Yep, making good decisions, executing the formative offense to kill the clock, all of that. All of it you need in your resume as a quarterback in the NFL, and he seems to be getting a good dose of that as he moves forward. 9 starts now, his 10th coming up this week. By the end of the year, he'll have 11 NFL starts, and I believe you're going to look back at the season and say, well, it was a pretty steady trend up for Josh Allen through his 11 starts.
Recognition of time and score, knowing where you are on the field to protect for points, you know, not forcing anything in the red zone. I mean, these are all little steps that he's taking, and people that didn't watch the game are going to look at the stat sheet and be like, 50% completion percentage. The guy did a lot with 13 completions, 10 of which went, by the way, to Isaiah McKenzie and Robert Foster on the day. So those 2 guys have been enormous help for him in the passing game the last few weeks.
We're in 4-down territory. We get to 3rd down. We're going to focus on the defense here and on a couple of defensive performers who were outstanding, sort of at opposite ends of the experience spectrum, too. Lorenzo Alexander and Shaq Lawson. Shaq and Lorenzo both had great games. Lorenzo is a kind of a freak of nature, playing as well as he is at his age with his experience. Called upon to do much more yesterday with the injury to Matt Milano. Lorenzo was on the field more often. Lorenzo made plays. And Shaq Lawson did a great job batting down passes. It's almost his specialty now.
That's what he does.
Yeah, and it's funny to watch. Shaq Lawson was a big question mark going into training camp and into the start of the season. But over the course of the season with his play, Shaq Lawson, I think, is grudgingly almost earned the respect of head coach Sean McDermott, who now admits, he made plays. He's pretty good for us. We'll see.
Sean McDermott told me 3 weeks ago he and Matt Milano are the 2 most improved players on the roster this year from last year. That's a big statement. Because Shaq Lawson, you could argue, wasn't a McDermott or Bean guy. He wasn't drafted by those guys. He was drafted by their predecessors. So you've got to make one heck of an impression if you want to stick and stay. And I think that, Shaq bought in completely. His injury-riddled first 2 seasons were a contributor to that. Came in the offseason in the best shape of his life. And we're seeing the results of that hard work. It's paying off for him, and he's carved out a role on this team. He's the 2nd best defensive end on this roster right now this season. And you look at those 2 guys collectively, they didn't sack Matt Stafford once yesterday, but Shaq and Alexander combined for 4 quarterback hits, 3 tackles for loss, and 2 pass breakups. And that's in limited playing time. These guys don't play all 60 snaps. Shaq rotates with Murphy. And Lorenzo, as you said, was playing a little bit more off the ball yesterday, filling in for Milano. He had a heavy workload yesterday.
93% of the defensive snaps.
He had a heavier workload because he had to essentially play 2 different positions. He's playing Milano's spot off the ball, and then he was still involved in the pass rush packages. He was playing a ton yesterday.
93% of the defensive snaps, half of the special team snaps at age 35.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
He's a Swiss Army knife.
He really is. All right, 4th down as we go through, and this is defense too. I thought Jordan Poyer played an outstanding game yesterday. In fact, on the radio broadcast, we made Jordan Poyer the difference maker player of the game. He was great in run support. He was good on the back end. I watched the game over this morning, and the interplay between he and Micah Hyde is really something to watch. How they, right up until the snap of the ball, will talk and dialogue about what they think's coming. And Jordan Poyer is a key player on this Buffalo defense, now ranked second in the NFL.
Yeah, and he finished as the leading tackler on the team with 11 and had those 2 huge stops on the final series. You know, Detroit's driving. It's still, you know, a one-score game, as we all know, and he gets the 2 big stops on back-to-back plays. He drops Riddick in a tackle for loss, sets up 3rd and long, and then he stops the tight end Toilolo short of the first down marker, and they decide to punt there on their own half of the field. They had to, basically, and hope their defense could get a stop so they could get the ball back again with about 3 minutes left in the game.
Much better job tackling for all the Bills on defense. Poyer kind of leading the way. Great tackles on the big tight end Toilolo, too. I mean, Jordan Poyer's given up some bulk and some size there, but he was right in there to make the stops.
I mean, you talk all the time about Josh Allen's competitive fire. I think Jordan Poyer brings that to the defense. There's leaders on that side of the ball, but the competitive fire, Poyer might be the first guy in line for that.
You're right. All right, let's get to your thoughts on the game. Crowd noise, where we take input from you as to what you thought about yesterday's game. We'll start with Twitter today and crowd noise. Reaction to the Bills' 1-point victory over the Detroit Lions from Garnett Barnsdale on Twitter. It was definitely worth the trip from the 6 to see Josh Allen play. It looked like the Lions were forcing him to be a quarterback, and he did just fine. It was a lot of fun cheering on a second-half comeback win. Go Bills. Where's the 6?
It's Toronto.
The 6?
Toronto, yeah, that's what they call it. That's what Drake calls it. So we'll get you up to speed, Murph. Don't worry about it.
Who's Drake? No, just
Come on, you're better than that.
Yeah, it's definitely worth the trip. I do think, look, there was 59,000 again, and yesterday that was the announced attendance.
Right.
And I said it before the game and during the game a couple times on the radio broadcast. These are the diehards. These are the people who love this team, and these are the people who I think are invested and want to see Josh Allen progress week to week, and they're getting that. Just as Garnett said, they're getting that when they come here and see this team.
But I think there's a healthy contingent, even of fans that didn't come to the game, that are excited about where this team is headed for the future. Obviously, this season, the script has kind of been written, but I think there are enough fans out there that are smart enough to know there is value in these last 3 games, chiefly with the young end of your roster, which very quickly is becoming the guys that are getting most of the playing time. I mean, we had the statistic on Bills All Access yesterday in the pregame show, Murph, where 37% of the snaps on offense and defense combined are going to first and second year players. These are the players that are going to eventually, a good portion of them anyway, be the core of this team going forward. And so I think it's exciting for the fans, while this season's script has been written, to see the advances that those players are making in their games individually and how that can help the collective going forward.
All right, more crowd noise from you. We'll go to Facebook for our next comment. This one comes from Douglas Hall. He says, nice to see a lot of our future getting some reps. Finally, wait until next year has some meaning. Just what you said.
What a segue. Good job. Who was that? That
Douglas.
was Douglas. Well done. I mean, you want to join the show? I mean, he just did with crowd noise, but man, what a segue. That's what it is.
Yep.
That's what it is. I think that's what fans have hitched their wagon to. They say, let's see what these young guys can do so we have a better sense of what this team can be in 2019. And that's absent free agent additions with money to spend and 10 draft choices that they currently hold. So, you know, knowing the decisions that Brandon Beane is going to be making to improve this roster all the more with this young core that you have that's exciting to watch, that's laying it on the line in games that you can argue don't count, I think it's exciting for fans in a different way than maybe making a run to the playoffs.
This thought occurred to me this morning on my way in here to work about, yes, 59,000, good crowd, loud crowd yesterday. But what we've got now, I think, among Bills fans is a smart crowd. And they know, all right, we're deferring our pleasure and maybe some wins we don't get this year because it's all building for the future. And I think I give Bills fans a lot of credit for being that smart to look at it that way. Most of them, anyway, think, all right, well, we're going to win. What are they going to wind up with? 6, 7 wins, maybe. But most Bills fans are like, okay, I can handle that as long as we're getting better next year.
There's something to look forward to. That's the key.
Yeah.
It's not all is lost, we stink, and we're not going to be any good next year. This is a team that's fighting.
Yeah.
I mean, that was
they play hard.
That's a hard-fought game yesterday to
gritty,
win by
as
1.
I said. Yep.
So they see the fight, they see the potential, and that's what's exciting for 2019.
Back to Facebook for some more crowd noise, and this one comes from Steve Volpe. This season would be a success with a win over Tom Brady. Way to set the bar up high there, Steve.
That'd be a nice exclamation point.
Yeah, it'd be great. You know what else would be great? A win against the Dolphins on the final day, December 30th, that takes the Dolphins right out of playoff contention. I'd look forward to that.
I'm all
either
for
one
playing
I'll
spoiler.
take.
I don't mind that.
Yeah, either one of those.
Win
I'd
the
take.
last 2 and finish with a 3-game winning streak. That'd be pretty good.
Like it. All right. Any more crowd noise? One more from Steve Espasto on Facebook. What, no Bills shirt, Chris?
Oh, come on. I got Bills colors on. It's red, white, and blue.
We are in, by the way, the Steve Espasto Memorial Studio here.
That's right.
All right, that's the crowd noise, and that's more than enough crowd noise from you, Steve Espasto. Let's get into our 2-minute offense now as we take a look at what's gone on around the NFL over the weekend. A couple of Saturday games and some good Sunday games. The Dolphins coming here on December 30th. The Dolphins go to Minnesota in the first quarter. Touchdown pass to Stephon Diggs from Kirk Cousins, and the Minnesota Vikings were rolling. Dalvin Cook had 2 touchdowns in this game. Dolphins lose badly, 41-17. I think they're frauds, and I think they're starting to show it, Chris. They're still alive, but just barely in the playoff chase.
Yeah, they're not going anywhere. I'm not worried about them. Ravens and Bucks. Ravens trying to keep pace with the Steelers in the AFC North. Shovel pass from Lamar Jackson to Chris Moore for the touchdown. Ravens up just 1 here, but Gus Edwards up the gut into the end zone for the touchdown. Ravens win 20-12.
Don't sleep on the Colts. Indianapolis home against the Dallas Cowboys, who are supposed to be contenders. Indy got 2 touchdowns from Marlon Mack. Indy pitches a shutout. Indianapolis defensive coordinator Matt Eberflus making a name for himself. 23-0. The Colts beat the Cowboys yesterday in Indianapolis. Indy's still very much alive.
Bears and Packers in the NFC North. Trubisky finds Tariq Cohen, his best safety valve, finds the pylon for the touchdown. Tie game 14-all. 10 minutes left. Trubisky with a bullet to Trey Burton in the left side of the end zone to take the lead. Rodgers trying to bring the Packers back. It's tipped. It's intercepted by who else? Eddie Jackson. Bear down. Chicago Bears. They beat the Packers.
A couple of longtime AFC rivals. It's the Steelers at home against New England. Ben Roethlisberger finds Antonio Brown for the touchdown. Tom Brady did not look right in this game. Fourth quarter, down by 4. He says he's trying to throw it away, but it goes for a pick and wipes out a potential scoring chance there. And then later, 18 seconds left, Brady just throws it downfield. This one broken up in the end zone. The Steelers beat New England 17-10. The Bills get the Patriots in Foxborough next Sunday.
Eagles and Rams Sunday Night Football from the L.A. Coliseum. Wendell Smallwood spinning and winning in for the touchdown. Up 23-13, the Eagles are. Jared Goff slips, and then the most improbable interception you're going to see. Eagles coming the other way with the football, and it's Smallwood again, finding a crease and the end zone. Fly, Eagles, fly, as they beat the Rams in a must-win situation for them. They're still alive in the much-jumbled NFC.
Do you have any other lyrics? Do you like to add
well, Murph, we're at enough road stadiums where we hear all these godforsaken touchdown songs for all these other teams.
I love Bear Down Chicago Bears.
It's historical.
I don't think the Patriots.
I don't know if it's good.
I don't think the Patriots have a fight song per se, but the Bills head to Foxborough.
They got those stupid Minutemen that shoot the guns off.
That's right. They go up against the Patriots, who lost 2 in a row. I think something's up in New England. I really do. 2 straight losses, maybe some disturbing losses. Look, I'm not ready to predict a Buffalo win there because New England really needs it now. Yeah. But I do think the Patriots have shown some serious vulnerability over the last couple of weeks, and the Bills, gamers that they are, might go there and try to take advantage of it Sunday.
It's been interesting to see the way opponents have been able to take Gronk out of football games. I don't think he's quite the player that he was. I think this is probably his last year playing. I wouldn't be surprised if he retires. I think his body's starting to break down a little bit. And teams are taking him out of games. Pittsburgh was dead set on not having him as a weapon at Tom Brady's disposal. They felt they could neutralize Julian Edelman enough, let him get those short gainers, don't let Gronk beat you with big plays, and they kept Josh Gordon under wraps. There are still weapons there to be concerned with. I'm just curious to see what Buffalo's approach is going to be, especially without Matt Milano, Murph, because he did a great job on Gronk in the first meeting, holding him to just 3 receptions on 7 targets.
And as we continue our look ahead to the Bills at New England coming up in Foxborough this Sunday, the one issue that we'll discuss, I'm sure, is going to be Josh Allen going against the Patriots for the first time.
Yeah.
He was out back on October 29th when the Patriots came here to Orchard Park. Now he gets a crack at Bill Belichick and that New England defense. That's where I think a lot of the vulnerability has been shown for New England, right? I mean, they don't seem to shut teams down. They didn't do it to Ben Roethlisberger yesterday. I'm really interested to see how Josh Allen matches up against Bill Belichick and the defense he'll throw at him.
Yeah, I mean, we know Belichick has a good record against rookie quarterbacks the first time he faces them. You have to believe he's going to be on the phone with Matt Patricia, his former defensive coordinator, this week to get some intel on how to defend him and what Patricia used and felt worked and did not work. You have to also think about who they're going to deploy as a spy on Josh Allen, because they do have a couple of linebackers that can run in Landon Roberts, Deron Harmon. Those are probably their 2 fastest linebackers. You would expect one of those 2 guys to be the spy on Josh. But I want to see what Belichick chooses to do to confuse him. I mean, Patricia yesterday dropped 8 into coverage a good deal. Josh didn't make any bad decisions despite the fact that they were trying to flood the passing lane. So it's going to be, I think this was good prep for Josh going into next week because he's probably going to see some similar concepts knowing Patricia learned at the elbow of Belichick.
Josh is going to need some weapons too, especially question marks about the running backs that will be available for the Bills this week with the injury they suffered yesterday with Marcus Murphy, unknown, but it doesn't look good for him. You've got LaShawn McCoy, who sat out yesterday, Chris Ivory, who sat out yesterday, and of course Keith Ford, who got his first taste of the NFL. But that'll be a story looking ahead this week. Who's going to line up and practice at least at running back as the week moves on?
We'll have to ask Coach if he feels a roster move is necessary to add some depth to the running back position, knowing that, LaShawn's situation and both Chris Ivory's situation are somewhat up in the air. Ivory's got that shoulder injury, and I think his style of play is not conducive to letting that thing heal properly because he's a hard-hitting running back. You take the wrong hit, and
he almost leaves with his shoulder.
And he's on the sideline again. So I think that's a precarious situation. You hope McCoy is good enough and benefited by not playing yesterday, where he can come back and assume a full complement of action, here Sunday in a game where, they're going to need him. He performs well against New England, too, historically.
Chris and I will talk about much more of this. Steve Tasker joins us 12 noon to 3 p.m. It's One Bills Live right here from One Bills Drive. You can catch it on our flagship radio station, WGR Sports Radio 550, and on MSG. But that'll do it for us for our Monday Morning Breakdown. Chris, thank you very much.
Good.
We'll see you next Monday at 10 a.m. on Facebook, on Twitter, and YouTube for the Bills Monday Morning Breakdown.